What's up, and welcome back to Cleats to Whistle podcast. I am Brad Valdez. My co-host over there at the end, Kevin Watson.
I don't know if you can see me or not.
He's got the camo on. We have a new look. We got the white background here today. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have Coach Eric Dick on. If you guys have not seen his quick little cameo, basically, on the GLFCA halftime show.
Yes. That was my introduction.
Yeah. So you are officially on the podcast, man, and it's good to have you on the pod, man, so we can talk all Holy Cross, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you all for having me.
Yeah, man. I always ask this question first, man, because we all have that past, and everybody's like, okay, I know what he's gonna ask, man. But go ahead and shout out some of your mentors, man.
You know, for me, when I first started, the guy that got me into all this was Troy Johnson at Fern Creek. And so he was the guy that really got my start with the whole coaching thing. And so definitely him for sure. I followed up with Brian Shuddy, and then Bob Bronger, who by far has probably been the most influential in my life throughout the whole coaching journey.
The legend.
And so, I worked for some good ones. LaCunta Farmer, when I was at Doss, Jonathan Miller at Fairdale. I did a brief little stint at Bullitt East with Mark Sander, Mike Gossett. I mean, I worked for some really good guys. So I've definitely had a lot of great mentors. But, you know, up at the top, I mean, you know, I think of like LaCunta Farmer, unbelievable motivational speech guy. Like, I mean, he would get you ready to run through a wall. And Jonathan Miller, just being able to learn so much from him offensively. And then Bob Bronger, just holistically, just showing me how to be a head coach, what it takes to be a head coach, the ins and outs of everything. So I've been very fortunate in my coaching career to work under some really good guys.
Man, that's awesome, man. A shout out to his mentors, man, for making him the coach he is today, man. And that's what it is showing love to those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get here by chance. You know, it's being able to have those people to look up to and work under, and, you know, put the work into get to the spot that you're in. You know, so sometimes I feel like it's a lost thing now. People are title hunting instead of doing what they need to in order to climb up the ranks. And so, but I mean, you know, it was awesome. So,
yeah, man. So did you grow up in Louisville? Where did you grow up?
I grew up. I am Louisville born and raised. Grew up off of Papa Level Road. Went to St. Agnes and then St. Raphael, and then went to high school at St. X. So went to college at U of L. While at U of L, I was a GA for football for about 3.5 years. And then
Who was the head coach then?
John L. Smith, who was awesome. And I worked specifically with D-line, so I got to work under Nick Holt, who was at USC for a little bit, Steve Stripling, and then right at the very end was Petrino's first stint, and that was Kevin Woldhausen. So, I mean, it was cool, like, you know, being able to be around the sport I loved, and being able to do all that and travel places and do things on that level. So, yeah, so that was me growing up.
Man, that's crazy, Coach. That is crazy, man. You just dropped some names. You've been at great programs, especially John L. You know what I mean?
Dude, John L. he was one of a kind, and he was one of those guys, and that entire staff was so inviting and so, I mean, they would do anything for you. And so it was a really cool experience to, be a part of the whole thing, and seeing how because he took over Louisville during some very rough times.
Rough times, so,
But to see, how he did stuff, and, just the total program build, like, it was unreal. It was a great experience.
So why didn't you stick with college? I mean, did you ever have aspirations to stay in college, or you've always been a high school guy?
I thought about it at the beginning, but I am too much of a family guy to do that. Now, hats off, because there's a guy that I have followed that I coached with, Chris Franklin, who's the DB coach at EKU, and he has been, he literally worked his way up the ladder. Him, Dante Pimpleton, just working their way up to the ladder to where they were, and I just couldn't. There's no way. I love being around my family. I love having the free time and stuff that we very rarely get, but we do get from time to time. So, I love the game, but I think I think I'm at where I'm supposed to be at. So.
Yeah,
and you enjoy teaching too, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, and that's what one of the questions was, dealing with the stress of football. You've coached at college. I mean, you're a GA, but man, you were still running around, setting everything up, doing everything, clipping, doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you playing the game, you coaching at the high level. And now you're a head coach. Yeah, it's high school. You know what I mean? But you're still putting in them hours. You're still, losing sleep sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you know what I mean? So you have a support system. You say you're a family guy, man.
Oh, 100%. And I heard Kevin talk about it before, too. You are as good of a coach as what you are with what you have at home. My wife is the absolute backbone of everything that I do. And so, we have 3 young girls. And so, while I am – my major months start pretty much in July, and they run, I hope, always until December.
Yeah.
But she is there. My kids are involved in sports, so she's running around. She's also a teacher. So, I mean, she is – I could never thank her enough. But, she said she partially feels like she was born to be a coach's wife, and so she's unreal. And without her support and her backing, none of this of – what I do would even be possible right now.
Wow, that's unbelievable, man. So, yeah, shout out to wife, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to wife. You have to. That's what,
100%.
coaches over there, man, we got to get our wives on, man, so they can.
We need to have the women behind the coaches. I'm telling you. You talk about a show.
I don't even know if I'd want to hear some of the stuff that she would ever say, but it is, man. I mean, there would be – I think every coach would be lying if they said that if they don't have a support system at home that they could be as successful as what they are. There's no way. So I agree with what Kevin says. Behind every good coach is an unbelievable wife.
Rolling her eyes.
Yeah.
100%.
On the computer again? Huddle again?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing now?
Yeah,
talking on your phone?
Yeah.
Texting?
Yeah, taking the phone calls when I get
home. My wife
home.
always said, do I need to put some shoulder pads on for you to pay attention to me? Let's try it.
So what Little League team did you play for?
Well, I grew up in the Catholic School League, so I played for St. Agnes in 5th and 6th, and then at that time we never had enough for 7th and 8th grade team, so we merged in with St. Raphael. So we played at St. Raphael for my 7th and 8th grade year, and then that was growing up for me. At St. Agnes, man, we were the whipping boys, man. They used to, we would get our heads knocked in and week out. And so when I got to St. Raphael, they had a little bit more tradition at 7th and 8th grade, and being able to go to a toy bowl and be a part of that, which was probably one of the coolest experiences ever. So, but yeah, those were my days growing up playing. So
nice. And
the toy ball was just it's a tradition that's just. I mean, if you've never seen one, played in one, it's the real deal. The toy ball is unbelievable.
Yeah, I wasn't around. You know what I mean? Like 10 years ago, I just moved here, so I hear about the toy bowl, and I always hear, hey, this is exciting football, man.
That's right. It's the Catholic school Super Bowl for all the grade school teams. So it's a really cool experience to be a part of, and so I always tell the kids now. I mean, it's so different because everybody is now just different conglomerates, just so many schools put together, and so. Back then you were representing your school for the most part, and so it was an awesome thing to be a part of. So, and there's so much tradition with it. So,
man, that's unbelievable, man. Now the number you wore, did that have like a backstory or have any meaning to you?
No, so when you played in Catholic school, you had a weight limit, and I was always a little bit of a husky boy, so I never got to ever run the ball. My first number ever, you could pick, and so my first number was 34 because I was a monster Bo Jackson fan. So number 34 was my number at the beginning, and then, my dad, who was also my coach growing up, was like, "You need to really think about a lineman number," and I was like,
"Talking truth, right?"
They were, and so then I switched over to 99, and then when I switched over to St. Raphael, I got number 67, and number 67. Stuck with me from then all the way through high school. So number 67 was it. You know, it just was one of those things. You know, we were handing out jerseys and stuff this year, and I had a freshman that was like, man, I don't know what numbers, and he was a lineman. And I was like, oh, well, here's 67. I hear that's a good number.
Don't let me down now. You can have this.
I said, here's a good number. And so he was like, you're really pushing this number. I said, it's my number. I said, so, you know, let's go be great in it. So,
yeah, man, what a story, man. And, you know what I mean? And that's cool that you could do that with a kid, be like, yo, this is my number. You know, that's awesome. I actually never did that with a kid because everybody, you know, nobody wants 40. You know, I think that's the number that gets left off. Nobody wants it.
A lot of the freshman kids that dress varsity get 40.
Yeah. So
I do have a 40. It did not get worn this year. So it is still hanging.
The disrespect,
Nobody wants to
man.
be Brant Valdez, man.
It is hanging with the tag still, waiting for somebody to break the seal on it.
It's the cleanest one hanging.
Yep. Your favorite memory playing football, man. Man, you probably got so many coaching. You know, but what's the one that you?
Mine is the toy ball.
Yeah. Your favorite memory, man.
And probably, and I didn't get to play in it. And you know, my kids they always give me a hard time because they said, "Were you one of those clappers at St. X?" And you know, I was for the majority of my time there. And so, but in '97, we played Trinity in the state championship at Old Cardinal Stadium, which that by itself was one of the coolest experiences ever. And I remember we ended up winning 3-0. Buddy of mine, Ben Bosher, was the one that kicked the field goal, and you know, be a part of that. And then I think it was, what was his name? Anthony Wajda, I think it was, dropped the punt, and then we picked it up to seal the win. And so it was cold, man.
3-0,
and we ended up beating them 3-0. And it was, you know, that was. As like
it
during
just blew
playing
my
day,
mind right there, 3-0. That's
during
Packers, Colts, 60 days.
I mean, we just kept going back and forth. I mean, it just, you know, it was one of those games. It was a white knuckler all the way to the end.
Now, was that Glazer?
It was. Okay. It was. So I mean,
I'll tell you how long Agnew was around.
Oh man, he, you know, what's funny is I just saw him. I guess it was about 2 weeks ago. I do.
He looks exactly the same. Doesn't he?
100%. I don't think he ages.
He's a great guy.
I don't think he ages. I was announcing for our basketball team, and he is now an assistant coach for St. X's basketball team, and ran into him and shook his hand. And so it's cool because, you know, he was like, you know, I think you're doing a great job. And just to get the seal of approval from somebody you looked up to for so long, I think
guy's a legend.
You know, that it was really cool to get that. Wow, so
that's awesome.
Major impact for me.
That's really cool.
Yeah, man. You know what I mean?
You get Mike Glazer's seal of approval.
You know,
right.
It's crazy, coaches, because you know a lot of, you know, I mean, you know a lot of these coaches personally. You know what I mean? This is a platform for them, for our community to get to know them, and your community to get to know you guys on a personal level. So hearing these stories, man, you know, it brings like the community closer to you because you know what I mean. That's great stories that you're telling, man.
No, I mean it's cool. I mean, I think a lot of times I could get together with coaches and we don't ever really have to talk about the game. We could just talk about
who we know,
stories, and I feel like everybody is, you know, you're always going to find a couple stories that I remember that, or you know, what about this game, and so it almost becomes like one big large fraternity. Like once you're in and once you start really meeting people and stuff, it's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What's that game you play, the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever? I mean, we could do that for coaching, really. I mean, if you really think about it, because everybody's either coached with somebody or coached against somebody. I mean, it's really a small world when you really think about it.
Yeah, with me only being here 10 years, and I've coached maybe 8. I mean, you know what I mean, I know so many guys now. It's just crazy. Yeah, you know, so that's the brotherhood, man.
Oh, it's crazy.
Hey, now let's talk. You know what I mean, let's get into like Holy Cross while you're here, man. With you taking it over. You know what I mean? At the spot it was. You know, we were talking off camera. You know what I mean? I said I was at Western. We played you guys twice. You know, we beat them up pretty good. Mm-hmm. Coaches at DeSales, he said he beat, you know, roughed you guys up. But changing the culture there, you know, how did you do that?
You know, here when I took over officially in 2020, which what a year to take over. But you know, Coach Bronger had, you know, when he left in 2019, and 2019 was the year that he decided that he was done, which He came back to do 4 years, and it just so happened to be the 4 years that his youngest son was there. So he got to experience that for, because he had 2 other kids, and he wasn't able to really experience that because he was always coaching somewhere else. And so for him to be able to coach his son, I think that was the way that he had always tried to really envision his, his whole coaching experience. And so when I took over in 20, we had just came off a Final Four trip, and so I was like, man, how do you do this? Like, how do you come back to this? And then of course, COVID and stuff hit, but it was a lot of just continuously being there for those kids, because that was just a hard time in general. Because when we should be doing summer workouts, we were on Zoom calls with each other, and I was sending out reminders about, hey, check your huddle app. Let's go through this. And so it was just constantly being on those kids to where.
We talked quite a bit that year about, he would ask, what are y'all doing over there? And I would say, what are you doing? What kind of workouts are y'all doing? And it was weird. It was not football at all.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I had a lot of mixed feelings going into it. I remember talking to them because I felt like we just got thrown back into the fire. Like they were going to turn us loose, and we had, I think, like 2.5 weeks to get everything ready before we started the season. And so
right.
It was crazy, but it was just really picking up where he had left off, because he had left such a good legacy. Yeah, we had struggles moving in, going all the way until 2019, but 2019 was a blessing in disguise for us, and those guys, it was magic in a bottle for us to make it to the Final Four. And of course we ran into a juggernaut of Pikeville, and so it was one of those things. So we picked up the pieces in 20 and made it back to the regional championship in 20, and it was just being constant with them, and just not really trying to change the standard, just continuing what the standard was laid out for us. So
nice.
You didn't really have to go through a culture change, because Bronger laid the foundation.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you just picked up where he left off.
I was going to say,
kept rolling with it.
I mean, everything that it wasn't like I had to break bad habits, and I wasn't trying to go against something that was, everything was laid out. I mean, when they tell you sometimes you get the keys to the car, like he gave me the keys to the car, and so I was able to, put my own spin on stuff and do things, my way, I guess, in certain aspects. But he didn't leave me anything in bad shape. So it was, I was very fortunate to take over from a guy that had that much experience and, pretty much laid the groundwork for everything that I did.
Yeah.
You've done a pretty damn good job.
Well, I appreciate you.
And the standard, you guys, you talked at halftime, you were what, 10-4, 9-4, your standards were high coming into last year. You kind of knew, you might fall off a little bit. So you guys, the standard wasn't met last year. You guys were 6-6. You still made what, second round of playoffs?
Second round of playoffs, yeah.
Yeah. So it's still a successful season.
Well, and they talk about, I think is it the Steelers? That is the standard is the standard.
Standard is standard. Yeah.
So I mean, it's just one of those things, and I tell my kids all the time, like, do you really understand what that means? Like, the standard is what you want the standard to be. So if you want to be mediocre, then the standard's mediocre. If you want to be great, well, then the standard's got to be great. So, I use that motto a lot. I'm not a Steelers fan, 49ers fan though. So, on that, but I mean, it's a great saying because it is true. Like, if you want to be performing at a high level, then everything you got to do needs to be at a high level. So it's just, keeping, that standard was set, and then it was my job to make sure I took over and ran with it. So
that's not just a saying for sports.
No, I mean,
that's a life.
Yeah, it's definitely, definitely a life saying. So, I think I'm not going to say I model my life by it, but it's a great way to model a life by it, because the day and how you make your stuff is up to you. So,
yeah. And with you guys, getting back to work, man, how long you guys been back at it?
We've been back. This is week 2 for us. I think we started back about the second week in January. So,
okay.
We're already back at it again. So,
yeah, man, how you guys looking?
For us, we'll have great skill kids. We lost 4 out of 5 guys up front, so for us, we got a lot of work to do up front, and this offseason for our big guys is going to be, a huge one in a lot of aspects, especially with only returning one guy defensively and we have one guy offensively, and we have a few guys coming back defensively up front, but our up front guys are going to be challenged this year. So making sure we have a good offseason is of the utmost importance for those guys.
Is that fair to say that's your bugaboo over the years, is having and not necessarily big enough guys, but having enough of those guys?
Yeah, I mean,
that's a high school in general, unless you're one of the big fours.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers.
Yeah, so I mean, we've never been fortunate enough to be able to platoon and your offense, your defense. So it's just making sure our guys are in the best shape possible, because some of those guys, are all state. Dylan Jacobs is a perfect example. He played 80-something plays, 80, 90 plays in a game, and so a kid's doing that, and he's, trying to play at a high level, which he's going to give you everything he's got. We had him, and, I couldn't tell you how many more linemen. Caleb Phillips. The list could go on about guys that are just going out there and just destroying their bodies on a weekly basis because they're going back and forth for us. So
did that catch up to you against Campbellsville?
Yeah, of course.
They outnumbered you.
Oh, yeah. It's just, in some of those teams that, they beat and beat and beat and beat. And so, for us, we could only take so much because we were so deep, and then the injury bug hit us too, early in the season, and then hit us again a little bit later in the season. So it's just one of those things, especially being 1A, you pray for a healthy year and you hope for the best, and, you just going to kind of see where the cards lay. But, those kids do a great job, and, we do a great job of making sure they're in the best shape possible so we can, have the absolute best chance of winning.
Well, let's be honest. If you had the numbers, you would be 6A.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah.
You wouldn't be 1A. That's the truth.
And that's 100%. But you got some of these teams like the anomalies in our class, Pikeville, Raceland, who are dressing close to what a 6A team would.
But they're the only kids. They're the only male kids in the building.
Oh, 100%.
They're all football players.
100%. So you're looking at those teams. We played both in the Final Four. Pikeville had probably close to 80. We played Raceland 2 years ago, and they had probably 70, 75. So and those kids, they're not your not your normal, 1A kids, and so
right.
Those kids could, Raceland, I tell anybody, Raceland, Pikeville, you could put them up with some of the best. And
it's the same with us. We played Beechwood. Beechwood.
Oh yeah.
Literally every year could beat anybody. That's
Beechwood used to be the bugaboo of 1A for us, because that was the cross, and no matter what, more than likely if you didn't see them round 1, you were going to see them round 2.
we were a 5A school, and they had more kids than we did.
Yeah,
and they don't just have kids. They're grown men.
They got dudes. They got dudes.
They really do. They look like me and Eric. They got better beards than we've got.
There's no doubts. When we played Raceland, there was a kid. I was like, I thought he could have possibly been my father. Just beard out to here. Just like it was amazing to see the fact that I was like, there's no way this kid is a senior. Maybe a senior in college or close to a senior citizen. But
he's been buying beer since 8th grade.
There's no way he was getting carded.
Oh, that's crazy. Now you guys got traditions. You know what I mean at Holy Cross, man. When GLFCA, you had guys wearing certain jerseys. You know what I mean? What kind of traditions you guys have over there?
So, with us, Holy Cross didn't always exist. Holy Cross came around, it was 1984. And so before then, it was 2 separate schools, Bishop David, which was the all-male, and Angela Marisi, which was all-female. And then in 84, they combined it to make Holy Cross. So we make sure that, throughout the entire school, we honor the past. So, our girls' basketball, soccer, any of our girls' sports, they'll don the Angela Marisi jerseys, and, they used to be the Clovers, and Bishop David used to be the Falcons. So, usually one game a year we have a throwback night, a alumni night, and so we will don the Bishop David jerseys, and, you honor the past because they're the reason why we're here today. So, we always make sure that, we have those guys back, old alums. I encourage all of them to come out and, being able to speak at the alumni associations and stuff like that. It's an unbelievable thing to have the traditions, because as a coach, you look for places that you can go to where it's tradition rich, and there's stuff that was already there, and those people really care and they come back, and that's just how the community is. So being able to honor those people and know it means something to them, it's a really cool experience.
Yeah, that's
being,
awesome.
Being a South End guy, the Bishop David runs deep. I mean, you can't go anywhere without, if you say Holy Cross, they'll say, well, I went to Bishop David.
Yeah.
And they come to the games. I know a lot of those guys, and they still come to the games.
It's so cool because I'll wear a Bishop David shirt, sweatshirt out, and there's not been one time where I haven't been stopped and they're like, you look too young for Bishop David. And I'm like, I am too. I am. I was born in 81, but I said I was not in high school in 81. So, but, and then I explained to them, who I am and, what I do. And so they're like, why do y'all wear that? And I was like, we still honor, we honor our past because it's because of the past that we're here right now and how we continue to grow. So, but it's a cool thing because it's just nuts. Like I said, there's not been one spot that I've worn that thing and somebody hasn't stopped me and been like, you go to Bishop David? No, I didn't go to Bishop David, but we make sure we do our job of honoring them.
Yeah. Coach, you got any more questions?
No, I mean, I always enjoy talking to Eric. He's a friend of mine, and he's a great guy and a great coach. And hey, nothing but the best of luck to you.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. I got
if you need anything, hit us up, man. We'll be glad to help.
Well, I'm glad that y'all had me here today for sure.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions. Your staff, everything back together. You guys pretty gelled.
Yeah, we did a couple. We had some guys step away and guys that have moved on, and so just solidifying our staff, and we pretty much wrapped that up earlier this year. And so, I'm fortunate enough. I think I have probably one of the best staffs in the state, and I got probably one of the, guys ask all the time about how I was able to get Steve Cerati on staff with me, and so I said, guys, I just lucked into it because, he, at that time, he was coming on in 19. His grandson was going to play for us, and then his grandson ended up deciding that he wanted to pursue something else and didn't play. And so Steve, being the guy that he is, was like, look, I'm still going to honor, what I said I was going to do. So stuck around, and then me and him really hit it off. And
Coach Cerati was my coach in high school. I will tell you that one thing about Steve Cerati, he's the coolest guy in the room. No matter where he goes, he's the coolest guy in the room.
It is unreal. Like he, besides Coach Bronger and some of the other guys that I talked about earlier, the amount of people that I've seen, former Central players, DOS players, that come up and talk to him, and just the interactions and stuff he has, like that is what I want as a coach, because those guys are, when I tell you, they are all behind him. I mean, in whatever he does. They had a picnic over the summer and invited him back, and there's a bunch of his former players, and I was like, that's it. That's awesome. That's the reason why. And so, but yeah, I mean, my staff is great. If I can take a minute, my backbone, Chris Thornton, we call him coach, and he's our jack of all trades. He's our manager, and right now he's falling on some health problems, and he's in the hospital right now. But I just talked to him on the way here, and I was telling him that the kids miss him, and he's just such a big part of everything we do. So we're hoping for a speedy recovery for him, and nothing but the best. And his Holy Cross family's definitely got his back, and so we love him and we're praying for him, and we just hope to see him back with us here real soon. But when it comes to my staff, I love it because those guys, a head coach can only do so much, and so those guys really make me who I am. Like you can't be a successful head coach and not have a great staff. And I've been very fortunate in my time to really have a great staff. So I can't thank my guys enough.
There you go. Last question, Coach. Last question. What's one thing that you learned about yourself this season?
Is there just one?
That even though you have an idea of how things are going to go, they may not always go the way that you are wanting, but there's a reason behind everything that happens. And so I've never been one to be this is what God's plan is for you right now, and this is, you're meant to learn some stuff right now and things, but even though our record was 6-6, there was a lot of great things that came out of us being 6-6, and the kids, their willingness to fight and never step down from a challenge, and so we played a pretty tough schedule. I mean, we played nobody that was in our class outside of our district, so that by itself, we're automatically going into games where we are outnumbered, and people look at you and they're like, like I always talk about the Butler game. They walked out and they were like, "Is this it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I could hear them laughing and stuff like that, and so could the kids. And they're like, "Coach, they have no idea." And I was like, "Well, you better let them know then, because."
Were they laughing after the game?
No, they were.
Oh,
no.
What happened? Oh, shoot. Okay, hold on. All right, so we had some technical difficulties, you guys.
Hey, I want to shout out our sponsor for this show, Larry Nevitt, Dawes High School class of '91. We went to school together, and he's pledged to help us out this year. And he's a sponsor that truly believes in changing lives in our young generation on and off the gridiron, and he wanted to give us some help this year, and I wanted to shout Larry out for giving us a hand.
Yeah, so shout out Larry.
He's an over-the-road driver and listens to our podcast while he's on the road, so we want to definitely shout out Larry.
and thank you, Coach Dick, for it was an honor to have you on. We will be out. Do a whole show for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Player profiles, everything.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, I mean,
make sure you tell Cerati I said hello.
Well, what's
I don't throw the love word around, but I love that
dude.
man.
He just had double knee replacements, so
he won't miss it. He won't miss it.
No, he's like, "Coach, I'm going to be hemmed up for a little bit, but I promise you, I'll be back."
I'm telling you right now, he's drawing plays up and stuff right now.
Trust me, like every college game, every NFL game, he's like, "Man, what do you think about this? What do you think about this?"
We'll talk on the phone for 5 minutes, and it turns into 45 minutes.
There you go. Everyone has a story. We're here for them to tell it. Cleats to Whistle podcast.